Jello Beats, holla at me.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and as promised, some training footage. So today we've got a pull workout, so back and biceps at 3.5 weeks out from my first show of the season. So still training hard, still training heavy, still trying to look at either retention on the logbook or potentially some logbook progressions. But today was, well, yesterday was a good session. It was productive, logbook numbers were pretty much retained across the board, and we got work done. So, rationale behind some of these moves. Now, first up, obviously the chest supported lever row, plate loaded. This is one of my favourite moves. I feel very locked into the movement, and I feel as if this has a lot of good rationale behind it, because my day prior to this is very low back loading. And this is something that you need to think about when programming your overall training week, is where are your most intensive low back loading days, and where are your pulling movements that potentially, again, require low back stability, like bent rows or anything non-chest supported. So I choose a chest supported row for the instance that I'm supported and that my low back isn't involved, so I can really focus on working on my back. Next up were V-bar pull downs, as you've just seen. One of my favourite back moves, again, primarily targeting back thickness as opposed to back width with the narrow grip. And with those, I found that I've actually got stronger over the last few weeks with those. And I think that's really correlative to just nailing the form. It takes a little bit of time to nail those and really find a good back contraction. So I urge you to think about how you're performing a V-bar pull down and make sure that it's very controlled in the manner that you execute it. Same with all moves. A powerful concentric and a controlled eccentric is really something that you're going to be looking for in pull movements. And again, trying to keep the scapula retracted and focusing on utilizing your back musculature as opposed to just jerking the weight down. So actually, after the V-bar pull down, so after only 2 back moves, I move on to my first bicep moves. Reason being is that I found if I situate all my bicep moves right at the end of a session, they will inevitably be very poor in quality. And this is why 2-a-day training might be beneficial, as you can do your pull movements in the AM and maybe biceps in the PM. That would be something that I'd highly consider in the future. However, now being so close to my show, I just want to stick to my same structure. So, 2 back movements in, I start with 2 bicep movements. Therefore, I'm getting some really decent bicep volume. These are actually my movements that are the most taxing. So I do a alternating dumbbell curl and a seated hammer curl with both dumbbell variants. I find that these 2 moves, I get a really good engagement with my biceps. I've used barbell curls in the past, which I like, but again, they're quite low back loading, and they're also very taxing on your central nervous system and your overall recovery, and they tap into the rest of your back workout. So I find that these 2 moves are superb to situate in that middle section of the back workout, just before we go on to our final 2 back movements. I think with bicep training, something that I've learned over the past is that you can excessively focus on numbers here, and something that I've more so focused on, especially throughout the contest prep diet, is really trying to maintain good contractions with my biceps and focusing less on the logbook, focusing more on how I'm doing a certain movement and whether it's beneficial for hypertrophy. With arm training, you can't expect it to progress in either a linear fashion or as quick as your other movements. You must be aware that the more intricate moves, lateral delts and triceps, biceps, more smaller musculature, they're going to progress slower. So you've got to be a little bit more patient. I put this move, this prone row, on my Instagram the other day. It mimics a hammer strength low row. So really targeting the low lats. If you really focus on retracting your scapula and pulling all with your elbows, just think elbows back, you will feel this frying up your lower lats, and if anything, your entire low back musculature, and a little bit of upper/mid back. I'd say this is an all-round awesome move for thickness. Obviously, the grip being a closer grip will more contribute to back thickness, or the thickness musculature of the back, as opposed to back width. You'll see that in this pull workout, I don't do a lot of width-focused moves. The chest supported row is probably the only one that you could really identify as a width-focused move. Now, I actually do more width-focused in my upper day later into the week. So this is the rationale behind that. Now, finishing off back with a seated single arm cable row. I've done these as moto rows in the past, sort of like on the floor on my knees, or also called like a slut row, because your ass is out, you're on the floor, you're in a doggy position. I like to call it a slut row, but this is not a slut row. I tend to go back to these frequently because I really feel, again, just a really great contraction in my upper back with these, pulling more to the chest than the waist. Again, targeting more of the upper back musculature, as we've done a lot of sort of mid to low back moves earlier on in the session. Now, moving on to my final two moves, or more pump moves for the biceps or the arms, because we're doing here a cable curl, and then we're also moving on to a reverse barbell curl later on for the forearms, which I do think that you can train. I do think that some forearm training in there would be something that would be beneficial or advantageous for creating a very well-rounded and overall symmetrical look to your physique, and also benefiting you in moves, sorry, not in moves, but in poses such as the side chest, side tricep, and the front double bicep, and potentially rear double bicep also. You'll see that I'm performing these with quite a lot of elbow flexion, so the elbows are actually rising and coming up towards the top of the movement. This is, it's understood that this is the full range of motion of the bicep, and anecdotally, since introducing this kind of cable curl, I do feel it definitely a better contraction again in my biceps with doing so. I actually do some shrugs here, so cable shrugs with a very wide grip. Jeff Nippard did a great video on advanced trap training, and one of his concepts that he did actually take away from that was the idea that a wider grip to the shrug would potentially provide benefit with regards to range of motion, and an increased range of motion can potentially put you in a better position for hypertrophy. So I like to do these in, again, quite a high rep range, so I was doing 12s here with, I think, the majority of the weight stack, because you'll find on cable attachments you'll probably be able to max these things out pretty easily on shrugs. So I do definitely do the higher rep ranges on things like this, and just focus on getting a great contraction. And again, this is definitely, there's some benefit, guys, in the high rep work, the pump work, because that's essentially targeting the mechanism metabolic stress as opposed to mechanical tension or muscle damage. I do think you should weigh heavier or put more weight into your progressive moves, which are coming in the front of the session, and then at the end of the session you can add in more metabolite work, higher reps, shorter rest periods, supersets, drop sets, etc., to accrue more blood volume and, of course, more training volume. So guys, I hope you liked this session, hope you enjoyed it, hope you took something away from it in terms of potentially like low back loading, metabolite work, etc. If you'd like me to discuss any of these topics in further videos, let me know. But again, hope you liked it. Subscribe for future videos. Let me know if you like seeing more of the training and more of the voiceovers. And I'll catch you guys soon. See you later.